Well, welcome everybody. I am here with the champ of the debate. I know you should probably be saying what debate. No debate actually happened, right? Well, exactly. That's right. You know what actually happened is Kudo has forfeited this debate. Angel is going to explain to you right here and even following this what has happened. He has forfeited this debate. He refuses, after many attempts to even negotiate an agreement to start a debate. This man can't even start a debate. So it's over. I'm sitting here with the champ.
Well, actually, the champ is actually the entire Christian community. This is a team victory. It's a victory in Christ. See, I was not alone, obviously. My partner, Jim, there are others out there who have stepped to the plate. This is something that Kudo failed to do. Individuals such as Adrian Mason, special thanks go out to him. Valerie, actually her username is Freed Valkyrie. They have stood up to Kudo and others in the defense of the truth and in bringing Kudo to justice. And I'll explain what I mean by that momentarily. And so it's not a victory by me. It's a victory for the entire body of Christ. And so as we go through this here briefly, there's a question out there that Mr. Kudo he's hanging his hat on this. He's basically claiming that I blocked him from the negotiation process. And so it sounds rather underhanded. And so the nagging question is, did Angel block Kudo? Well, let me put it to you this way. God's justice is going to be brought to bear on Mr. Kudo, and let's not forget about somebody on the sidelines who has remained inconspicuously absent. That's Kevin Morgan. He's equally as guilty as Mr. Cotto. And so here, Edwin Cotto of Adventist Defenseless League has falsely accused me of blocking him from my channel for no good reason. See, the way the negotiation process was supposed to go, that I insisted on an open, honest, and transparent negotiation process. And that would go solely through my open letter to him, both on his channel and mine, strictly through those two letters. But what happened was, this will come out later on, it ended up now in his ballpark, strictly on his channel, because Kudo and his underhandedness. And so, as a result, the SDA community are the only ones that are aware of what has happened with this alleged debate. And the Christian community is in the dark. Now, before we get into that, I'll pass it over to Jim.
So how we got here was, well, it's been a very long process. Over at least 2 months. An open letter was published on your channel accepting the debate challenge by Mr. Cotto. And it was my suggestion, I think we were talking about it, to have this open and transparent process. Says, let's have an open and transparent process so both the Christian and the SDA community can see as you two are negotiating this debate format.
They would serve as witnesses to the negotiation process, all the details about the title of the video, the content, and everything else, and they would serve as witnesses, and we would be held accountable to an open, honest, and transparent negotiation process, including the debate format.
All done out in the clear, the open. Nothing done underhandedly, background, etc. Open and clear, transparent process. So your open letter said essentially this: let's have this negotiation here on my channel, and we'll do it conversely on your channel at the same time. Thereby, both the Christian and the Adventist community can see this very open and transparent process. So what does Kudo do? Of course, ignores this open and transparent process. Actually, refuses to participate in an open and transparent process, refuses to negotiate a debate on your channel, takes all the communication, puts it just on his channel because he's whining and complaining that it's just too hard to do, and just puts it on his channel. So in other words, the Christian community is looking at your channel, your open letter, going, gee, nothing's going on here, when all this activity is going on over here on the Adventist Defense League channel. Kudo just refuses. He is just obstinate and won't even reach a negotiation for a debate, which is why we can't have a debate, because he just won't do it. Shifted everything to his channel.
In the future, we're going to bring that out, how that transpired, how it ended up strictly on Mr. Kudo's channel. Okay, I'm going to do a separate video on that sometime in the future. Okay, because this is what Mr. Kudo is doing. He's hanging his hat on this. Basically, if you go to his channel on the community post, he's saying basically, Angel needs to return to the negotiation table, to the agreement that we had. Excuse me? We never reached an agreement. Never. And so we're going to explain this in the very near future, what exactly transpired that day. How it began, or we tried to begin with an open and honest negotiation process strictly through his channel and my channel on my open letter. So that way, like Jim was saying, so the Seventh-day Adventist community and the Christian community could bear witness to the rules, the format, and everything across the board, and both of us will be held accountable. But Mr. Kudo refused to do so, and now he's crying foul that I blocked him. So we'll explain that in the very near future.
You had so you had your open and transparent or letter request, which failed, right? He didn't respond to it.
He spit on it.
That's a great way to he spit on
Spit on it.
and stamped on it. But in the meantime, after that letter, you had the chance to bring in somebody who's really a professional here and has a very deep pedigree of experience in this. Who did you bring in to actually meet with Kudo and try to start again what Kudo failed to do?
Good way to put it. Kurt Van Gordon. I met Kurt Van Gordon back in 1985 when I was a brand new Christian, and I knew he was an expert, a seasoned debater. So I thought, okay, you know what? Let me call Kurt and find out if he has any suggestions that we might use for a debate format. Well, this brother, I'm telling you, he just blew my socks off. He said, well, what's going on? When I started telling him, he says, tell me everything. I said, okay, I try not to be long-winded here, but I'm going to tell him everything. And before I knew it, Mr. Van Gordon, my brother Kurt, took the bull by the horns. And he went and he helped me unsolicitedly. Without me asking for any assistance, he said, why don't you just set up a live debate here in California? Pay for Mr. Kudo's all-expense airfare, hotel accommodations, car rental, the whole works. And we'll treat him to a day or two in California, and you have your live debate. And I thought, well, I don't want to do that for Kudo. You know, I really don't think highly of him. And he said, well, do this if you want to debate him. I said, okay. So my ministry funded it with some help from Jim as well. And that didn't work. But let me tell you a little bit about Kurt Van Gordon for those of you who are not familiar with him. Kurt Van Gordon started his ministry way back in the 70s, I believe it was, with Professor Dr. Walter Martin. He was an original disciple of Walter Martin. He was trained personally by him. And for those of you, if you're not familiar with who Walter Martin was, he is the trailblazer, the modern day trailblazer of Christian apologetics. He set the groundwork for us who are apologists to follow, emphasizing documentation, copyright, so on and so forth. He's the founder of Simon Greenleaf University. I didn't even know that, okay, until Kurt told me that. But anyway, Kurt Van Gordon is the chief editor of Kingdom of the Cults, Walter Martin's book, The Kingdom of the Cults. And he's also an editor on this book here, The Kingdom of the Occult. So Kurt Van Gordon is a seasoned debater. He's a missionary. He has two ministries, one of them entitled U3 Utah Gospel Missions. Chief editor, ghostwriter. He's contributed to numerous books. Ronald Enroth, Norman Geisler, just to name a few. So he's not some Johnny-come-lately. But I'll tell you this, he is one of the most godliest, humble brothers I know in comparison to the knowledge that he has. Talking to Kurt is like talking to Jim. We're brothers. We don't view each other as better than one another. And yet, although he has this large seasoned pedigree, he'll talk to you like you're his equal. But more than anything, what he brought to the table here is he's an expert in formal debate format, legalities, including copyright laws, especially those pertaining to the type of debate that I challenged Mr. Kudo to. And it fit, as I was telling him the story of this, he says, you know what? This reminds me of something that I went through back in the 70s with the Mormons. And he just said, you know what? Let's do this. I'll be the facilitator. I'll negotiate for you. And he says, and we'll see if we can get this to fruition. And I thought, but remember this, it was unsolicited. He wanted to see the debate carried out. But one, Mr. Edwin Cotto of Defenseless League was reluctant to. He was not willing to. And you know what? He had me fooled. I actually believed at the outset that he was genuinely interested in debate. But soon after, 2 months of chasing them down and chasing them down, hearing excuses, which you hear about in the video, it became evident to me he is not interested in a debate on a level playing field.
No, he's not. He snubbed you and all your attempts to negotiate a debate. You bring in a seasoned professional at this specific topic, and he snubs him also, which they're going to see in the debate. Here's what Kudo wants to do, and you're going to see this at the end of our video.
Hold on for a second. Something really, this is ultra crystal important. Okay? Mr. Van Gordon, my brother Kurt, was negotiating with Cotto on some emails. You'll see this in the video, some emails, and via telephone. Okay? And as the Seventh-day Adventist community witnessed Kurt's conduct in the negotiation process, several of the Adventists mentioned that Kurt was being fair. They spoke highly of Mr. Van Gordon. Even Kudo himself, and even Kevin Morgan. They spoke highly of him. So what you have here, in essence, is Kurt Van Gordon brought his highly respected name to the table in negotiating the process, and him handing down the victory to me due to Kudo's failure to respond by a particular deadline, and he forfeited the debate in my favor. And what I noticed was that the SDA community was silent prior to the debate or the negotiating process. It sounded like a closing auction at the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, it was a lot of discussion, and once Kurt came in and handed down the decision in my favor, it sounded as quiet as a church. And this is solely because Kurt Van Gordon brought his respected name and showed it on display to the SDA community. They respected Kurt's decision that he handed down. So there was no question about it. And this, Mr. Kudo will have to live with because he failed to meet the deadline.
Well, what does Mr. Kudo want to do? I know how he wants to debate. And you're going to see this at the end of the video.
So make sure to stay tuned.
This is what Kudo wants to debate.
What do you have in your hand?
I got some masking tape, duct tape, and some rope. This is how Kudo wants to debate. You'll see this at the end.
I praise the sovereign God of the Holy Scriptures for pressing my longtime friend, Kurt Van Gordon, into his service during the Arellano-Kudo alleged debate. I want to express my deepest appreciation for Kurt's unsolicited assistance and expertise in formal debate format procedures, including copyright laws and formal written agreements pertaining to live debates. Special thanks also go out to another helpful individual who chose to remain anonymous. He was extremely helpful during this period. Then I would like to thank Adrian Mason and Fried Valkyrie, who put their God-given gifts and skills to work, which helped shape the course of events that led to the conclusion of the alleged Arellano-Kudo debate. Well, although I was declared the winner of the debate by Kudo's failure to respond to Kurt's clear-cut deadline, make no mistake about it, I'm not taking credit for this. This victory was a team effort, as I pointed out in the introduction, beginning with Jim standing up to ADL for the last, 8 years, Jim?
5.
Okay,
5 years.
5 years?
Yep.
Okay, so then, like I said earlier, there are other individuals who my hats are off to. So what I'd like for you to see is a couple of screenshots here that I took on a couple of individuals here. Adrian Mason, right there on the screen, he has a little icon. I guess if that's his chin with his goatee and some gray hair. He was He was extremely helpful to me during this period, sending me emails and unsolicited encouragement to stay strong in the scriptures, as you see that there on the screen. And then, of course, there was also Freed Valkyrie in similar fashion. She stood up to Adventists and just put her exegetical skills and her apologetical skills as well in confronting Edwin Cotto. So we begin with Kurt's letter to his email to Edwin Cotto once the deadline has passed. We're going to read it for you to get you up to speed on what actually happened and how this alleged debate, came to its conclusion. I'll be enlarging this portion right here, Jim and I. It reads,
Today is March 8th, 2025. This post is to let you and your followers know that yesterday, on March 7th, 2025, the deadline expired for starting our negotiations for a formal debate between you and Mr. Arellano in California. You promised in 2 separate posts on your YouTube channel to call me by phone and begin negotiations, but I never received that phone call. The facts remain. 1. You accepted Mr. Arellano's debate offer on your live February 22nd podcast. So you acknowledge that it was Mr. Arellano's obligation to set up the debate. 2. You confirmed this by adding, I guess this Arellano's offer can happen. 3. You conceded to his idea of a debate in which you are happy to oblige. I sent a formal debate invitation to you as a fresh debate offer grounded in academic procedure. In it, I stated what I would like to do is talk with you about a date, go over the format, and we can address any other areas where I can be of help. Your response was that you will call me. Then I received an email with a mishmash of rambling complaints. You only stated that the March debate was unavailable, but nothing was said about why the 2 April dates were unavailable, and no phone call came for negotiations, as you stated would occur. In the lack of your phone call, the offer is now past the deadline. Regarding your complaints, please refer to the invitation which stated the best collegiate format for 2 debaters, that is in the similitude of the Lincoln-Douglas format. By crying foul, you appeared completely unfamiliar with debate theory and this particular format that has been used in academic forums for 165 years. Any textbook on debating will inform you about its fairness, civility, and respectful decorum. At this juncture, in the absence of anything resembling a serious debate negotiation with me, this leaves us with the counterposition that I referenced in both emails. That is, either step up to the plate and honor your words or forfeit your position. We regard your lack of following through with your own word in all the above as forfeiting your position in Mr. Arellano's favor. This was stated in my second email. Consider the debate now off the table by default and forfeited. After discussing these options with Mr. Arellano, he is satisfied to let your non-negotiation speak for itself. And as the initial facilitator and moderator for the debate, I too will consider this matter closed. Sola Scriptura, Kurt Van Gordon.
You know something, Jim? I want to point out a couple things here. If you notice here, he tells them, either step up to the plate and honor your words or forfeit your position. This was stated very clearly. At this juncture, he could have said, I need more time. But instead, he was out there muddying the waters, trying to revive my initial proposal, which he spat on. And so here he left Kurt hanging for, 6 days, while he was out there busy posting upwards of 45 comments and hearts, engaging with his followers, trying to revive this proposal that he initially spat on. Why? Because I brought an expert into the picture, and he knew that he was in serious trouble. And so here, as Kurt points out at the end, when he asked me, so what do you want to do? I said, well, what else can I do? It's obvious he doesn't want to debate me. So why don't we just move forward and consent Kudo in the forfeiture of the debate in my favor? And so now, 2 days after this, something very interesting happened. I received a text from Kurt. I'm going to post portions of it, not its entirety. Watch how revealing this is. This is a text from Kurt to me on my phone. And here's some highlights. Quote, this is Kurt speaking about Edwin Cotto. He says, he totally misreads or misinterprets what is meant by the deadline and control of the debate. He's trying to save his face in front of his viewers. I can care less. And then notice here, he also says, I told him it's over. Why? Because he failed to meet the deadline. He said, I sternly warned him that if you lie about me, then I will come after him. He called that a threat. I told him it's not a threat. It's what I'm going to do if he lies about me. Then I shifted the conversation to more friendly things like how he observes the Sabbath and so forth. What was interesting about this is Kudo is running like 3 or 4 lines of communication with Kurt. He's trying to contact me, muddying the water, saying that I blocked him, so how can he negotiate with me? He's also communicating with Kurt on an email and a telephone conversation and on the post. Sound familiar, Jim?
It does. You know, what you are seeing here right now is what Angel and I wanted from the beginning. It's called open and transparent. You've never seen this before, SDA community or Christian community. You are now beginning to see some of the open and transparent communications that Cotto does not want you to see. As you can tell by that previous letter and the text here, there were some pretty stern communications, directions, and warnings to Cotto. And you know what I'm sure of? That on his channel, where he's trying to control the narrative, you see none of what you just seen before you. You see none of it on his channel.
Right, so my open letter, or the follow-up letter to my open letter stated, quote, that all communications pertaining to the debate on the status of Ellen G. White as a non-canonical prophet will go strictly through my open letter and your open letter on both of our channels. And we did this because Jim's suggestion was this will ensure accountability on both parties and an open and honest and transparent negotiation process where both the SDA community on his channel and the Christian community on my channel would serve as witnesses.
What is wrong with that process? What is wrong with the process that places the burden on you, Angel, to post this content in an open and transparent process on your channel? And then I would say, Cotto, what's wrong with an open and transparent process on your channel? Who wants to be against an open and transparent process? Who?
That's a great question. Only a person who's not interested in truth.
Right.
That's your answer.
Right. There you go.
And
Because
so-
he evaded the open and transparent process.
Yes. It'll come out later. I'll bring it out. I don't want to get sidetracked on this, but I'm gonna do a separate video on that somewhere in the near future to answer that nagging question that he threw out there like a trap. Basically, that I blocked him, and so I repeatedly had his followers come to my channel asking me. One guy said something like this: well, to be fair, you did block him, so how can you negotiate? And I said, oh, I see what Kudo's doing right here. He's muddying the waters, and he's trying to rewrite the narrative, and make it look like I'm the one that backing down, when in essence, Mr. Cotto is the one backing down. And so now, what you see right there is Kurt sent an email and posted a comment on Kudo's channel on March 8th, informing Kudo that he had forfeited the debate in my favor. Then the following day, Mopar 440 video, an interview with Luis Reyes interviewing Kurt Van Gordon, followed 2 days prior, or 2 days afterwards, 2 days following Kurt's email to Kudo and him posting the decision that he handed down on his community post. So 2 days later, in a video was released where Carlos Reyes was interviewing Kurt Van Gordon, and it was sent to Kudo that same night. And so the following day, Kurt received a phone call from Mr. Kudo. We'll get into that at some point. Maybe not here, but we'll get into that.
Make sure there's a link, by the way, below in the show notes to the Mopar 440 HP web YouTube channel. Go watch the video yourself, and you can go see and you can watch the video that Kudo watched himself, and then panic sets in.
I love that. See here, and I don't love the part about him panicking, but I love what you're saying, because in this interview,
Panic on Kudo's part, because
right.
now he's got to answer for something.
Right. It's not only Kurt Van Gordon who is a seasoned debater. Luis Carlos Reyes, he himself is a seasoned debater. Mm-hmm. And so although Reyes is interviewing Kurt Van Gordon about the preliminaries and the rules pertaining to public debates and the legalities and copyrights and all of that stuff, Luis Reyes is no slouch himself, having engaged in hundreds of debates, live debates, and even debates in written form. And so although he's interviewing Kurt Van Gordon, they're both sharing their experiences about the importance of the legal procedures and the preliminaries and public debate formats, and copyright infringements and things like that, and which is exactly why I insisted on Kudo and I engaging in a debate like that was formal, and where we exchanged formal written agreements pertaining to the laws and the rules, the format of the debate, including the mutual release of a debate recording. We would both have rights to that. But this is something that Mr. Kudo was blatantly against. So let's move forward here, and let's summarize how we got to this point.
Yes.
Okay, so shortly after Kudo appeared, Morgan first, the day that my video was released on January 10th. Morgan came in there making all kinds of claims. Kudo followed. And so then there was a series of 6 occurrences where I challenged Kudo. And 6 times he backed down from me to either debate me or discuss the topic. And we'll cover those briefly during this period, culminating in the 7th back down from Kudo when he finally failed to show up and respond to Kurt's deadline in a timely fashion. So first it began with this. First day, when I asked Kudo about it, he says, well, I'm going to respond to your video. So in essence, they're going to shadow box with my video. This is called mock debates. Well, the one thing about mock debates is people who have engaged in mock debates, they're undefeated. They've yet to lose a debate. Why? Because the video does not strike back. The video does not interrogate or cross-examine. So you're always going to win. Okay? And now I'm not saying there's anything wrong with something like that, but if that's what you're going to hang your hat on and say, well, this is why we're right and why you're wrong, well, guess what? It doesn't work that way. That's why live, formal debates, the kind that Kurt tried to get into the picture, why they're so important. So after Morgan and Kudo tell us that they're going to respond to my video, Jim and I challenge them. Okay? So here, this is a copy of my video, a thumbnail for my video. And so here, this represents Morgan and Company shadowboxing with my video. So they went on air, did a live stream with this disingenuous invitation for me to appear after what Adrian Mason said. Well, isn't that? He says that's hardly a friendly platform. He says you create a hostile environment by summoning him, and obviously nobody with any proper state of mind is going to jump into that. It's an ambush, basically, is what it is, because they control the airwaves and they can cut you off whenever they want. They're serving not only as the other party in the debate, it's 3 against 1, but I'll take on an entire SDA community in a church as long as it's civil. There's guidelines, there's rules, and we do it respectably. No, I have nothing to fear there. So 3 against 1 is nothing. The problem here is that it's a hostile environment, and I know what Kudo and Morgan are made of. I said, that's a trap, that's an ambush waiting to happen. So after this, Jim and I told Morgan and Kudo, we said, why don't we do it on a neutral platform?
Right, you put that out there in the comments.
Right there. And all of this is verifiable on the comments, okay? So I suggested to a live debate on a neutral channel, okay? Right here, as you see it right here, it's SDA
He's a former Adventist. Kudo's been on SDA&A and fairly recently.
Thomas too.
Hey, he's a very open, fair, and honest guy.
And in the words of Kevin Morgan, he would be fair, but it wasn't good enough.
No, it wasn't.
They spat on that one as well. This is when I decided to take matters into my own hand. And I thought, you know what? He has several videos out there entitled Challenge an SDA Live. And I said, there it is. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to accept his invitation to challenge an SDA Live. And my video came out addressing him and a follow-up open letter to him. And I said, on one condition, it is only you and me in the booth. No outside help from computers or phones or anybody else. Just you and I. And he quote unquote accepted, but that was a farce. That was a smokescreen. And so at this point, this one-on-one challenge never happened. And we'll get into this later, and I'm going to show you from the comment board. It's very clear. Kudo was claiming that I blocked him, muddying the waters. Okay? And so therefore, I thought, okay, this is when I decided to bring in my friend Kurt Van Gordon. Okay? And this is where the entire tide turned. Okay? So Kudo and Morgan go and they do their live stream. And there you have it. This is what we call a mock debate. You see me there on the computer screen. Like I said earlier, someone is yet to lose a debate against a video. They're undefeated. The winning percentage of those who have debated someone through a video is still 100%. And by the way, nobody will ever lose. So after this, Kudo has run amok, which forced me to bring in my friend Kurt Van Gordon. But let me show you what led up to this. Prior to this, the night before his live stream, I saw what he was doing. I said, that's enough. I've had it now. So I said, now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite him to move the debate up forward. Let's do the debate 1 week following his February 22nd live stream. And watch what happens, how he backs down yet once again. This is a cutout, an enlargement from a conversation that I had. This is my announcement here. It says, notice number 3, both parties, according to the scriptures and Advent Defense League, will possess publishing rights of the video recording regardless of outcome. We will exchange signed copies of this agreement, making it legally binding. This is what turned Kudo off. Here he says, both parties, enlarged for you here, will possess publishing rights to the video recording regardless of the outcome. And here it is. We will exchange signed copies of this agreement, making it legally binding. Notice Kudo's response. How many times are you going to change things? He's rewriting the narrative once again. First, you wanted a debate on SDA Q&A? No, let's stop. Hold that. No, I never challenged him to a debate on SDA Q&A. See, he's muddying the waters right here. This is when I suggested that Jim and I debate those two, him and Morgan, on SDA Q&A. But notice how he slyly twists that, okay? Then he says, then you wanted it on the ADL channel. Now you want it on both the ADL channel and your channel? I never claimed that. Search as you may on the comment boards. I challenge you, Mr. Kudo. Show the evidence where I insisted that we do the debate on both your channel and mine. That is not true. Here we go. Notice first. We're going to go right here. There will be no more changes. There will be no signing of anything. Make a note of that. You're gonna see why it's important. First of all, if you watch the interview with Kurt Van Gordon, you'll see why it's important that there's a signed formal agreement. This isn't some legal procedure.
Right, and you are going to see more about this coming up. This is a legal procedure. And perhaps Mr. Kudo is not being transparent himself right here. It's called copyright. Copyright needs to be extended to both parties. I'm going to tell you something that I know that happens on YouTube occasionally. There will be a debate. One of the debate parties will get utterly decimated. And the person who gets decimated is the one that comes out and says, do not publish that video. I've got copyright on that video. You can't publish that video. And then, well, either sometimes it gets published or sometimes it doesn't get published. This is an effort by us, Angel and I, to say, nope, this video is going to get published. And neither of the parties can stop its publication, regardless of the outcome. He doesn't want to do that.
And you're going to see why. But let me highlight a couple other things. Like I told him, you already have the home booth advantage and control of the airwaves, including the role of the moderator. The deck is already stacked against me, yet I was willing to go on there. I have nothing to fear with Mr. Kudo. I'm super confident that I can refute him entirely in any discussion, any debate comparing Christianity and Seventh-day Adventism. But instead, he wants it where it's an unlevel playing field. He is not content with having everything else. He wants the decks completely stacked in his favor and to his advantage. But notice what happened. He says, this is not some legal procedure. Oh, we're going to revisit this, and this is going to bite Mr. Kudo where it hurts most, in the behind. Notice what he says, continues. It's just a religious debate. Okay?
No, nobody would ever put a copyright on a religious debate, would they?
Really?
Mr. Kudo, or get ready for these words are going to come back once again to bite him. Remember these two sentences. What you see before you. This isn't some legal procedure. It's just a religious debate. Right. What do we need copyright for? Oh yeah, stand by. We're going to have more to say on this.
Yes. Let's drive that point home with solemnity. There will be no signing of anything. This isn't some legal procedure. It's just a religious debate. Oh, really? Well, if you watch Mr. Van Gordon's interview, you'll see that there needs to be a signed formal agreement. And especially when you're dealing with somebody like Mr. Kudo and Kevin L. Morgan. So let's move forward and let's do a little bit of investigating here, okay? This occurred about a week and a half prior to me challenging Kudo to a debate live on his channel. The exchange occurred during a private video, so both names have been removed. But I believe we can reveal the important name if we need to. We're still awaiting word. But now notice the pattern of Kudo's failing to honor his words to debate others. I'm going to enlarge this for you. Watch this. Somebody asked, quote, did the ADL guys ever get back to you about a debate? His answer, you mean Cotto with the Sabbath topic? Nope. Evidently, Mr. Kudo has an established track record of issuing or accepting debate challenges and failing to honor his word to carry them out. And not incidentally, I am merely one of several men whom Kudo has done this to, that we know of. Moreover, Kudo can say whatever he wants, but I am not the one with a proven track record of bailing out on proposed debates. Now let's trace Kudo's track record back even further now, to approximately 9 months ago, bringing us to his refusal to sign a written agreement with me, because as Kudo argued, and I quote, there will be no signing of anything. This isn't some legal procedure. It's just a religious debate. Oh really, Mr. Kudo? Let's see if you are being honest with me, and more importantly, the SDA community, in front of whom you made this comment. This is a man by the name of Chris Lucas. Okay, this takes us back about a year ago.
Yeah, at least a year, maybe if not a little more. There was a little something going on. I got wind of it, and I heard from Chris that he was in a Facebook, and it was a private chat. And it was on Daniel 8:14, and Cotto and Jason Thomas and someone else from the Advenseless Defense League was there.
And it was a private video.
It was a private Facebook, yeah, subscribers only. And what had happened in this is the story that was told to me, is that Chris Lucas, and Chris is very good in refuting Edwin, as he does routinely on prophecy, in Daniel 8:14 in particular. So he was explaining to me that he was in there refuting the Advent Defense League in their use of Daniel 8:14, as were other, as the story was told to me, Christian seminary students. And I guess the comments and the refutation of the Adventist Defense League was so bad, they were getting ridiculed. And so Chris told me that, well, on one hand, I think Chris didn't realize that he was in a private Facebook group, but he posted the video on his site. You remember those words that Edwin said? This is a religious debate. I'm not signing anything. So guess what Edwin did to Chris? This is what I heard from Chris. He starts threatening him and threatening him with legal action and copyright. What a hypocrite. I thought this was just a religious debate, Mr. Cotto. Evidently not, because he starts threatening him with copyright. So I now know why Cotto doesn't want to sign an agreement. Because if he gets decimated in a debate, he's going to do what he's already did in the past. And he's already done it in the past with Chris Lucas. And so Angel and I, knowing this, said, we are not going to let this happen to us here now. We are going to, in a legal format, because this is legal. Edwin knows it's legal because he already pulled the legal card against Chris Lucas. No, we're going to demand, regardless of the outcome of this debate, let's publish the video. But he doesn't want to do it. Matter of fact, he said what?
There will be no signing of anything. This isn't some legal procedure. Oh, really? So here, we're talking about signing something. No, it's not a legal procedure. Oh, but a year ago, Jason Thomas got obliterated, embarrassed, humiliated.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Mr. Kudo made it a legal procedure.
Now it's a legal
Oh,
procedure.
yeah, you see? A double standard. And this is by a man who has videos all over on his channel entitled, accusing others of double standards. I mean, like I said in the past, people who live in glass houses ought not to cast stones. So this is what Jim and I were guarding ourselves against. We knew that if I win this debate, which there was no doubt in my mind, I guarantee you, I would have refuted him until the cows came home. And I knew that if this is done, he'd pull the same thing on me. And that's another reason why I call my friend Kurt. So now, this brings us here, a screenshot that was mailed to me very recently. Okay, here's the evidence here. This is taken from a live chat on answering Adventism. Right here you have, I'm going to enlarge this for you so you can see what it says. This is Chris Lucas of the Protestant View Live talking right here.
I talked to the ADL before about Daniel 8, but it was on their private Facebook group, which is actually more like a public group. And the reason he told me that it was more like public, he said because they just admit almost anybody, when I was talking with him. And I'm going to continue reading. And he says, and when I reposted the video on my channel, they threatened me.
There you have it.
There's the big old now, come on, Edwin. I thought this was not this is a religious debate, not a copyright thing. See, he is trying to control the copyright.
Yes.
And he would do the same thing to us when he got decimated in this debate or any debate. He knows this. This is the card he tries to keep in his pocket to play. So whenever he gets decimated, he's going to pull the copyright card.
Okay, a couple things here now. So on one hand, when it pertains to the debate that him and I are trying to get, or allegedly trying to engage in, it's not a legal matter. But on the other hand, because it's convenient for him and he needs it, now he makes it a legal matter. Okay. The other thing is this. We mentioned that it was a private, members only or subscribers only debate. Okay, that he recorded. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Okay, there's a mistaken concept out there, a mistaken belief that, well, if you do it on your channel, you own copyrights to that. Not at all. Not at all. Thanks to my friend Kurt, he told me, no, if you're on there, and it doesn't matter if it's private, unless you sign something saying that you're forfeiting copyrights, which Chris did not do. He went on there. He owns his words. Why? Because he's the manufacturer of those words. So Kurt told me recently that no, it would have been within Chris's rights to keep that video up there because Kudo has no idea what he's talking about. He does not know copyright laws. And so now, let's talk a little bit about the implications that Kudo tried to avoid. Copyright laws. Let's look about it. So now we're talking about this debate, Jim, where, we want mutual rights to the debate recording.
That's fair.
It's fair. Who wouldn't want that?
Who wouldn't want that? Well, someone who's going to want to pull the copyright card like they did with Chris Lucas. That's who doesn't want it.
In case they lose.
That's right.
And he knew he would lose. He knew it. Now watch this. So let's look at this. The two possible outcomes of having a signed formal agreement, mutual copyrights, or only one person having them. Here they are. Two possible outcomes. Down here, I pointed out he does not want to grant me joint ownership of the copyrights. So here's the result. Let's say we have a debate. Regardless of the outcome, you sign it beforehand. After the debate is completed, the recording is done. Both parties are handed a copy of the debate recording. They have joint ownership of the copyrights to use in an unedited version and in its full length. They have mutual joint ownership of these copyrights.
But he doesn't want that, does he?
No, this is what he wants.
What's he want? That's right.
Sole ownership of the copyrights.
And control. Let me add ownership
Absolute
and control. Yeah.
And so he's fabricated this narrative that I want control. Oh no, that's a smokescreen. This is really what he's after.
Well, it's just a religious debate. Who needs to sign anything? Yeah. Well, ask Chris Lucas about that and how that worked out.
Now you're in for a real treat. Now we shift gears slightly. Up to this point, Kudo had backed down from my challenge to debate me 6 times. And I'm going to have them out there. They're posted in chronological order so you can verify this. And so at this point, he is challenging someone else to a debate. Right here, here's an exchange between Freed Valkyrie and Kudo. Kudo says to Freed Valkyrie, quote, "I'd be happy to debate you next and live on why it is irrelevant how I did respond to the so-called letter." See? It's irrelevant. No, follow the rules, Mr. Cotto. And then a Bible subject of your choice relevant to Adventism. This took place on January 16, 2025. February 16, 2025. Yeah. Now notice her response. Will I get a 2+ hour live stream dedicated to me, as he did to me, as well as a separate scheduled video of ADL speaking on all the debate topics beforehand? But now, so here's the point we're making here. He has unfinished business with me. We haven't even entered into negotiations because he's creating several lines of communication because his plan is to get control and have it on his channel.
He doesn't want an open and transparent process.
Thank you. He does not want to abide by an open, honest, and transparent negotiation process that Jim thought of on both of our channels, solely and strictly through my open letter. So at this point now, he's challenging someone else to a debate. When he hasn't even entered into negotiations with me. Who was this person? He's challenging a woman. Yeah, he's challenging a woman. So he was challenging a woman. So up to this point, Kudo had backed down from my challenge to debate me 6 separate times. And so he is unwilling to debate me man to man. On the other hand, he's willing to debate somebody man to woman. This here is a recent presidential executive order. It addresses the fairness of men engaging in competitive sports with women, which has been a controversial point here in recent years, and rightly so. I guess Kudo didn't get the memo. But then again, he is not one to abide by rules. So at this point, here we're at now. Kudo having backed down, forfeiting the debate in my favor. Here I have a picture with my agent Kurt Van Gordon on your left and my trainer Jim Baber. And so Jim and I chased after Kudo for 2 solid months, from January 10th to March 10th. And we gave Kudo 6 opportunities. I challenged him 6 separate times, either verbally or to an open letter. And each time he just came up, he refused, giving numerous excuses, ranging from, quote, "I'm going to respond to you in your video." And then he also said later on, "I can't do it for another year," though he had previously stated, quote, "Let's schedule this and get it over with. Come."
So remember this. His airfare, hotel accommodations, rental car were already bought and paid for. We didn't have to ask anybody for anything. He would have been on a plane and out here to California, and we would have done this. Let me just say something about the recording equipment. We were going to have a double redundancy set up. That means 3 cameras. You got your primary, you have one backup, that's one redundancy, and you have a second backup, that's a double redundancy. He was going to leave here with a copy of the video in his pocket, and what's he do? He throws up another obstacle of buy me recording equipment? This guy clearly is just looking for another excuse not to actually commit to this debate with you.
And another thing, he wanted to have a second moderator. Kurt said, that's pretty common. Kurt told him, if you want to bring somebody, you can bring whoever you want, but we're paying for your flight, not theirs. And so every obstacle in the book is what Kudo threw out there to avoid debating me. And so now in summarizing this, let's summarize this whole scenario from not from beginning to end, but just where it consisted of Kudo and I. So we began with an open letter, which you see right here, signified by the empty chair which he was supposed to fill, and the letter attached to the back of it. Okay, so we gave Kudo 2 months to step up, but he failed. There was an open letter. I'm not mentioning everything, we're just highlighting some of them. Then in between, there was a live debate on his channel. I took him up on his offer. I saw he had some videos entitled Challenge an SDA Live. Big man. I thought, okay, I got it. I said, this is what I finally said, you know what? This is how I'm going to get him to debate me. I'm going to take him up on his invitation for me to challenge an SDA Live. Okay, and yet again, he found a way out of this one. And so all of this culminated in his forfeiting the debate in my favor for failing to meet the deadline that was given to him by Kurt. Well, he did respond to Kurt Van Gordon's email 2 days past the deadline, claiming that, quote, he does not go by deadlines. But he said this after the fact.
What a ridiculous statement he made. I don't go by deadlines? Okay, Cotto, I've been on your website. I've seen your giving page. You proudly advertise I'm a 501c3 and you give tax-deductible donations. Well, that 501c3 requires an annual report, doesn't it? Why don't you tell the IRS that you don't respect deadlines and you're not going to file a report with them? What an utterly ridiculous comment. You know it's ridiculous. You just threw it out there anyway, but you know it's ridiculous, and now the world knows.
He threw that out of desperation.
That's true.
So here's what you have. Before he forfeited the debate in my favor, Kurt told him this, that there was a deadline. And that was strictly because of the hotel accommodations. Okay? Not only that, the location of the debate. We were looking to do it in a library, and of course, they're booked. So we needed to know we had a deadline. So we could, if he couldn't do it soon, we could do it later, a couple of months down the road or something. But we needed to have a date fixed so we could reserve the library and the hotel and the car rental. But no, so before Kurt, when Kurt told him this, he said, quote, I will call. Okay? He could have said, I don't go by deadlines. And I would have respected that, Jim. And I would have said, no, don't give me no deadlines. I am interested. Just let me look at my schedule. That's all he had to do. But instead, he said, I will call. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, the Bible says. So that's a promise. And Kurt pointed that out. So 2 days past the deadline, all of a sudden now, when he finds out he forfeited the debate, because during this period of time, he was busy on his channel, muddying the waters, trying to revive my initial proposal to him, trying to get me to bait, telling people, how can he negotiate when he's blocked me? So he has 4 lines of communication open simultaneously, and 6 days pass, and he has Kurt Van Gordon waiting for his response to email and to his post. In the meantime, he's posting upwards of 45 comments or hearts, trying to get people to put pressure on me to go back and renew that my initial proposal, which he spit on. And if he was successful in baiting me there, the results would have been is that he would have squeezed Kurt Van Gordon out of the picture. And that's what he was trying to do. So when Kudo says, I will call, but then calls 2 days past the deadline, this is what you have. This is like the bank has told Kudo that he's 2 months behind on his mortgage payment. And there will be, unless he catches up and pays what he's behind, they will be forced to submit what is called an NOD. That's a notice of default. And if he does not pay the balance due by March the 1st, Kudo responds, I will call. I will call to set a payment. I'll call. Then Kudo fails to call the bank by the deadline in order to set up the payment, and he calls 2 days past the deadline. And he says, okay, here I am returning your call. Come on. Any adult with common sense understands the consequences of such buffoonery, such negligence, such reluctance to abide by guidelines and deadlines. Deadlines are a way of life. And so Kudo because of this, now he's crying foul. He says, I don't respect deadlines.
You know, Angel, you can't debate someone who doesn't respect deadlines. We would have flown him out here, put him up in a hotel, and said, this debate's going to be on April, pick your day, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And here you are standing at the podium at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's no Kudo. And we call him in the hotel room, and what's he going to say? Boy, I don't go by deadlines.
Absolutely.
Can't trust this guy. And
so that's why I say, Kudo is hanging his hat on this. If you go to his channel, at the very bottom of that post where he answers Kurt's email, he has 4 lines of communication going. He's communicating to Kurt Van Gordon on the telephone, on an email, on a post, and at the same time he's trying to communicate with me. And so this is what you get with one Edwin M. Cotto of Advent Defenseless League. Okay, just a bunch of excuses, just a bunch of underhanded confusion. And then what they do is rewrite the narrative and they say, you're the bad guy, not him. Once again, bringing this video to its conclusion, once again, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Adrian Mason and Fried Valkyrie for their assistance and everybody else out there, because it was a team effort. It was not a one-man show. All I did was set the table. I had help from my brother Jim, who's been combating Advent Defenseless League and Adventists for the past 5 or 6 years, Jim?
5 years, yeah.
Right? And then others out there on the comment boards who are engaging with them. It was a team effort, not a one-man show. But if any one man stood out, it was our brother Kurt Van Gordon. If Kurt hadn't entered the picture, this is what I foresaw. It would have been a stalemate. They would have been pointing the finger at us. We would have been pointing the finger at them, the SDA community and the Christian community. But instead, when I brought an expert in here who knows the legalities and the rules concerning formal debates and copyright laws, Kudo saw that he was backed into a corner. And out of desperation, he had to try to renew that my initial proposal, which he initially spat on. And so we gave him 2 months to step up to the plate. I challenged him 7 separate times, culminating in Kurt's final invitation, which even the SDA community saw, that Kurt was respected, he was fair, and they respected his name. So Kurt came in here with a respected name. And all of a sudden, Kudo forfeited the debate. And what you see on the ADL channel prior to this, it sounded like the close of an auction at the New York Stock Exchange. A lot of busy engaging in comments, interaction, and once Kurt handed down his decision in my favor, it's as quiet as a church. And so Kurt Van Gordon conducted himself admirably. They said he was chaste, he was fair. One person, with the end of a username Meteor or something like that, he says it's good that you're offering him a fresh invitation or a fresh offer. I hope that you're fair. Everybody saw and witnessed that Mr. Van Gordon was fair. And this is something that Kudo could not stand for. And so we gave him 7 opportunities to step up to the plate, honor his word, and he didn't. So he has nobody else to blame other than himself. He can't put the finger at me, Jim, anybody else. Kurt, we gave him 7 opportunities. He rejected them, and so he's going to have to learn to live with it. So with this, I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Jim?
This is what Kudo wants to debate.
So with this is Angel Arellano Jr. and my friend,
it's Jim,
reminding you to always to do all things according to the scriptures and keep witnessing to those Adventists. We are finished with Mr. Kudo. He's in the hands of God, him and Kevin Morgan. And so now we're looking to happier, brighter days and dealing with more important things. Thank you for all your support, all the kind words of encouragement to both Jim and myself. And be sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video so you can see that Kudo has an excuse for each day of the week in order to bail out of debating somebody. Keep on fighting the fight of faith. God bless you all.